What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever NFL game show. Tonight, I have a very special guest on. He's been on the channel before, but I was like, who better to have on the first ever NFL game show than my guy, Jessie Naylor? How you doing tonight, Jesse?
I am doing fantastic, Amin. I am ready to get this going. You hit me up earlier. You always hit me up day of and ask me to do something crazy, and usually I can't do it. But tonight I had time, and I'm glad and honored to be a part of the first ever NFL game show. Let's get it rocking.
Let's jump right into it. Starting off with a little bit of start, sit, cut. I did a little bit of this with Eric Crocker DBs, with just specific DBs in the league. But today we're just doing all around, not much defense, but all pretty much offense. And we'll jump into some other topics. But for the first segment of the NFL game show, we will start off with start, sit, cut. Starting off with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Baker Mayfield. Who would you start? Who would you sit, and who would you cut?
I think you're starting me off with a layup, and I don't trust it because I feel like you're going to throw some hard ones my way. But this one, I am going to cut Baker Mayfield. I'm going to bench Lamar Jackson, and I'm going to start Josh Allen. You know how I feel about Josh Allen. I picked him to be my preseason MVP, and I thought he would be the best quarterback coming out of that draft. I believe that's proven to be true. He has been struggling a little bit, but Josh Allen has all the tools, all the physical attributes. Plus, he's a little bit mobile. He can make every single throw that there is. I'm definitely starting Josh Allen.
Well, I'm going to cut Baker Mayfield. That's pretty much obvious, especially with how well Baker Mayfield has been playing this season. He's not been playing well. And plus, he's been criticizing the fans. And I don't know if you saw, but he said something like, the reporter asked him, what are your thoughts on the fans booing you? He's like, those are the same fans that are not being quiet when we're working on offense. I'm like, you just got to play better. Like, the fans will not boo you if you just play better. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Hold yourself accountable, and you have to play better, and the fans won't boo you. But you're not playing well. You almost lost to the Detroit Tim Boyle-led Lions. So, of course, the fans are going to boo you. I'm sitting Lamar Jackson. I'm starting Josh Allen. I feel like Josh Allen has a better arm. And yes, Josh Allen has been struggling this year. But I feel like Josh Allen is all around a more better player. He's obviously not as mobile as Lamar Jackson, but I definitely feel like he's more an all-around better player than Lamar Jackson. So that's why I'm starting Josh Allen. I'm sitting Lamar Jackson, and I'm cutting Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I think you're on point with that. Mose is saying the same thing, and Mose knows. So that means we got it right.
Yep. Shout out to tuning in Mose Knows. Go check out his channel if you haven't already. Jesse's also been on Mose Knows channel. So if you haven't already, go check out Mose Knows channel. Go hit him with a subscribe. Go hit his videos with a like. Go show him some love if you haven't already. Moving on to a little bit of a tougher quarterback decision. Who are you going to start? Who are you going to sit in?
I knew you were going to do this.
Cut Tom Brady, the GOAT. Okay, GOAT, FYI. Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers? Who are you going to start? Who are you going to sit, and who are you going to cut?
Okay, I have to ask you, is this a 1 year thing, or is this for like the next 5? Like, what are the parameters here? Because I think it's only fair. Are we just talking 1 year right now? Is that it?
Yeah, we're talking about if you're building a team, or let's say you want a starting quarterback, who do you want out of all these three guys?
Are they all young, or are we going with the current age?
Going right now. Okay, we're not going.
Okay. That makes it. Well, listen, that makes it a lot easier. Then I'm cutting Brady. I am benching Rodgers, and I am starting Mahomes. Because if I am starting a franchise, I am not taking a quarterback who's nearly 45 and starting my franchise with him. Rodgers is nearly 40, so he's younger. He has probably a few more years left, so he's going to be on my bench. And Mahomes, I mean, I've got 10 to 15 more years of Mahomes. I'm easily taking Mahomes in this scenario.
All right, so obviously I'm starting Mahomes. But you cutting Tom Brady?
Yeah, Tom Brady, come on.
Tom Brady, I'm not saying Tom Brady, he's still putting up MVP numbers at the age of 44. Now, if I need a backup on my team, would I rather have Brady and Rodgers? I would rather have Brady. Rodgers, number one, didn't want to be a backup. No, with Brady, but I would have Brady on my bench and Aaron Rodgers. Now,
I'll take 4 years. I'll take 4 years of Rodgers versus 2 years of Brady. That's the way I'm looking at it.
I'll take 2 years of Brady because let's say Mahomes gets hurt, I have Tom Brady, the GOAT, on the bench. So that kind of like, you kind of remind me of what Stephen A. Smith would say. He's like, I'm taking Rodgers over Brady. Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. You kind of remind me of Stephen A. Smith. But now I'm putting Brady on the bench. Obviously now Brady with his age, that's why I'm putting Brady on the bench. And Mahomes, I feel like with Mahomes in the right situation, we've seen it last year and the year before, Mahomes is just straight up a baller. He's the most talented quarterback, I think, right now in the NFL. I think he's still the best quarterback in football right now. Even though the Chiefs, I've been struggling this year, I still feel like he's the best quarterback in football right now. And then Brady, I'm putting Brady on the bench. He's putting up MVP type numbers at the age of 44. And then I'm cutting Rodgers. Now I get it, Rodgers, he is younger than Brady, but let's say Mahomes does get injured, hypothetically, and I need a guy on my bench. I would rather have Brady on my bench than Rodgers, so that's why I'm starting Mahomes. I am sitting Brady, and I'm cutting Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, that's fair.
Moving on to the running back position. And I feel like I know where Jesse's going to lean with a little bit on this one. But CMC, Christian McCaffrey, King Henry, and Dalvin Cook. Who are you going to start? Who are you going to sit? And who are you going to cut?
Gosh, dude. Man, this one's tough. Okay, I'm for sure cutting Cook. That's definitely happening. Oh man, it's just all these guys get hurt, like, and especially Henry. Now that Henry's like gotten hurt, I feel like this is going to be a thing. I mean, he's had so much mileage, but it's still freaking Henry. I'm gonna bench Henry and I'm starting CMC. CMC brings more to the table for me. I know every single time that this has been brought up, even on my show. I mean, in the offseason, we talked about top 5 running backs right now. CMC, I put him at number 1. Everybody else had King Henry, and they killed me for it. I just think CMC does so much. I love Henry, but he's not going to catch the ball and do what CMC does. CMC can give me 1,000 rushing. He can give me 1,000 receiving. I got to go CMC as my starter.
I agree with Mose here. I agree.
Mose doesn't knows.
You legit said Mose knows just a second ago. Okay, I am starting King Henry. He's had 1 year that he's been injured, but other than that, obviously he's not he's not a dynamic receiving back. Yes, he's not like CMC in that scenario, in that case, but he's just so dominant on the ground. 2,000 yards last year. He pretty much has been doubling his numbers and improving every single season outside of this year because of his injury. But even with his injury, he was leading the league, and he's still like second or third in rushing yards this season. And he's been out for like 3 or 4 games now. So King Henry is just dominant. Even when he's playing this year, even though he's been out, he's still been dominant this year. So I'm starting King Henry. I'm sitting Cook. Now, the reason I'm sitting Cook is because I feel like Cook, obviously, he's not as injury prone as CMC. Cook does miss some games, but CMC for the last 2 years has been missing games. I feel like he's too fragile. Same thing that we Niners fans sometimes have the issue with George Kittle, where George Kittle, when he plays, he's a beast. But the time that he misses, you can't put him as the best tight end like over guys like Travis Kelce and stuff like that, because Travis Kelce is healthy and he's consistent, where with George Kittle the last couple of seasons he hasn't been. And same thing with this season where he's missed some games. So I'm cutting CMC mainly because he's just not a guy he's not reliable. And the best ability is availability for me. And I feel like Cook, he's more reliable than CMC. And King Henry, obviously we know what King Henry is. Best running back in football when healthy. So I'm starting Derrick Henry. I am sitting Dalvin Cook. And I'm cutting CMC. Yeah, if he would have hit 2,000, if he probably didn't get. Yeah, most likely, probably.
I think you make good points, but kind of going back to your whole Brady thing, I mean, if he gets injured, I got King Henry coming off the bench, so we're straight.
Moving on to some other running backs, some of the more underrated, not necessarily underrated, but some of the guys that you might not put in your top 3, some of the guys that you might put in your top 5, top 10 running backs. Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, and Zeke. Are you gonna do your boy Trey dirty? Are you gonna do your guy Trey dirty on this one?
I'm cutting Zeke. Definitely gonna do him dirty. I'm cutting Zeke. I am benching Chubb and starting Kamara. I feel like this is a very similar scenario to what we just had. And I'm taking a guy that can just do more with receiving and everything. I mean, Kamara can really do it all. I was worried about Kamara coming into this year because I hadn't seen him do it without Brees. And what I saw him do with Winston in the lineup proved to me that he's a mainstay. So I am taking Kamara as my guy, Chubb on the bench, and I'm cutting Zeke.
Yup.
Told you Mose knows.
Well, last one you didn't say that. I appreciate it. It means a lot. I appreciate it. Greetings. What's up? Greetings from the Chase Center. Oh, he's watching it from the Chase Center. Damn, I
There we
appreciate that.
go.
I
I love it.
appreciate that.
Go Trailblazers. Hey, the Blazers fired Neil Olshey today. I love it. I'm so happy. He should have been gone in the offseason. See you later, Neil Olshey.
Yeah, I appreciate you for watching the Chase Center. And yes, Mose is right once again. I am starting Alvin Kamara. He's just a dynamic back. Same thing with CMC, but majority of the time he is healthy. So I'm starting Kamara. He's just a versatile back. He's a great receiver. He's a great weapon. Some games when he's not as efficient on the ground, he's a weapon, and as a receiver also, and as a receiving running back. We saw in that Seattle game on Monday night where he wasn't that great on the ground, but he was like the leading reception, and also he was had almost 100 yards in that Seattle game. And I'm sitting Chubb, and I'm cutting Zeke because I feel like Tony Pollard. I mean, obviously I'm not gonna say Tony Pollard's on the same level as Zeke, but Tony Pollard, even when Zeke out and even with his limited carries, Tony Pollard's been able to do similar stuff on the ground. Even when Zeke was on the bench, and the Cowboys' run game wasn't that big of a loss when Zeke had limited snaps and he was sitting on the bench. So I'm sitting Chubb, I'm starting Kamara, and I'm cutting Zeke. Sorry, Trey. Well, speaking of the Trailblazers, okay, so you probably know Shardall. Shardall had this poll on Twitter. He was like, who is a better 3-point shooter, Steph Curry and Damian Lillard? And 96% of people had said Curry, and only 4%. One guy probably said Damian Lillard. I was like, that's probably Jesse. Jesse is probably the only guy that put Damian Lillard was a better 3-point shooter. It was like a poll. And 96%.
I did. No, I definitely voted Damian Lillard. Yeah, no, I definitely did that.
That was you?
But I definitely did. Yes, I was one of the people. If I was the only one, then yes. But yeah, I did. I definitely did. But no, it's Curry. Curry's a better 3-point shooter. What's up, Camp?
What's up, Ben? Appreciate you for tuning in. Go check out Ben's channel. He's doing a show with this huge Rams YouTuber, Jake something. I can't say his last name, but huge YouTuber, has almost over 8K. He's a huge Rams YouTuber. So go check out his channel. Go hit him. Go show him some love. He's doing a show over there tomorrow at 6 p.m. PST, I think. So go check that out if you haven't already. Moving on to the wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams. We always see those two guys, in the conversation. But this time I'm putting Cooper Kupp in that conversation as the third receiver. Because unlike guys like Tyreek and stuff, Debo, obviously, Cooper Kupp has just been straight up dominating the season. And we did not see him coming. If I told you in the beginning of the season that Cooper Kupp would be leading the league in receiving yards, most likely you would have called me crazy. But yes, he is. So would you start, sit, cut DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, or Cooper Kupp? Who you got?
So I'm going to cut Kupp. I just think athletically he just doesn't hold the candle to the other two. Physically, I mean, he's very good. Cooper Kupp is very, very good, but he's got limitations. And I'm going to sit Adams and start Hopkins. I still think Hopkins is the cream of the crop in this league. I know that Adams is kind of taking it by storm the last couple of years, and a lot of people are big Adams guys. I am too. I mean, I'm not trying to slide him or anything. I feel like Hopkins is just so damn good. That guy runs amazing routes. He's got the stickiest hands. He's aggressive at the catch point. Great body control along the side. He just does it all. He does it all. And it's not that Adams doesn't, but I just feel like there's a couple minor things that Hopkins does a little bit better than Adams. So I'm going to go with Hopkins.
Now, we've been on this show, obviously, if you haven't seen my show before, Tug of Wars, where I've had Jesse before. I was Hopkins over Devontae Adams. But this season specifically, we all know Jalen Ramsey's the best corner in football. And obviously, some people put Trayvon Diggs in that conversation, but no, he's not even on the same level. And he's not even close to being as consistent as Jalen Ramsey has been for the last couple of years. But the reason I'm taking Adams over Hopkins this year, and I get it might not be the best reason, but Adams is so good against Jalen Ramsey, who I think is the best corner in football. Where if you look at Hopkins and Jalen Ramsey, those matchups are even. Hopkins catches a ball, and then Ramsey knocks the ball out and stuff like that. It's pretty even matchup. Where with Adams and Ramsey, Adam most of the time gets Ramsey. majority of the time, whenever Ramsey is guarding Adams, and the majority of the time wins that battle. So I feel like if you're out of those two guys, if you're able to do it on the best corner and you're able to look like make the best corner not look as great, I'm putting you as the best corner. I mean, as the best receiver. Now I get it. DeAndre Hopkins, I feel like he does make more contestant catches. If it's a 50-50 ball, I feel like Hopkins will get it majority of the time, and he's better at that than Devontae Adams. But Devontae Adams, when you can make, like I said, when you can win majority of those battles against the best corner in football, I'm taking you, especially this year when I saw it. I'm taking Adams. When I've seen those Hopkins battles, it's a pretty even matchup. So just for this season, I'm taking Adams, and I'm starting Adams. I am sitting DeAndre Hopkins because, like I said, I feel like DeAndre Hopkins, he was my number one receiver last year, and coming into the season, he was my best receiver in football. But I still feel like, even though he's not putting up the numbers, I still feel like he's the second best receiver. He's more physically gifted than Cooper Kupp, and he runs way better routes than Cooper Kupp. And in third, I'm taking Cooper Kupp. I'm cutting Cooper Kupp. I feel like, yes, Cooper Kupp has had the most receptions, but I don't feel like Cooper Kupp is on the same level. Route running, contested catches, all those things, wise, and they're on the same level as Hopkins and Adams. So I am cutting Cooper Kupp. I am sitting DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm starting Devontae Adams.
So I want to push back a little bit on the Jalen Ramsey and Hopkins thing. You have to remember that they've played each other so many times. They were in the same division in the AFC, and then they both came to the NFC together. Same division again. So he's seen Hopkins probably 10, 12 times, and he's seen Adams like 3 times. So it's like, I think, I think he's obviously going to have a better idea of what Hopkins does, the way he plays, just by natural, hey, I've matched up against him X amount of times, right? If he had seen Adams 10, 12 times and Hopkins 3, I think you would see probably similar results. It's just about knowing your opponent. You've watched film on him. You've seen him on the field umpteen million times. He knows exactly what's coming. So really, there's no surprise. It's just like, hey, who's better on this day or on this play? And so I think that's probably why you see that discrepancy there.
I mean, not even the Jalen Ramsey thing, but like we saw it against like even the Niners, right? The team that we all love. The Niners game, when we played them, especially this year, we knew where the ball was going with 37 seconds left. We knew it. Pretty much everybody who was watching that game, who's the ball going to? We knew it was going to Devontae Adams, and we still couldn't stop them. Where with DeAndre Hopkins, we've been able to shut down DeAndre Hopkins before, and we sometimes he does pop off against us, but sometimes he like against Verrett, he's had those games where he'll
Didn't
have
he
like
go for like
50
210 on
yards.
the Niners last year?
One time he had like 140, I think, or something like that. Beginning of the season, like week one, okay. But other than that, we've been able to shut down DeAndre Hopkins before, but with Adams, we just haven't been able to do that. Pretty much every time we played him, Adams has had big games against us. Whether that might be a 50+ yards, he's been able to do that pretty much every time he's played us. So just some of those factors, I'm taking Adam just for this year, especially. And then Richard said, cut Hopkins, start Adams, and sit Kupp. Whoa, 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 whoa! I did not see that one.
Dang, I didn't either. That's crazy.
That's a bold prediction right there.
Yeah,
Mose does know. I love Nook, but Adam's footwork and route running is so elite. Definitely do agree with that. Moving on, we now are finished with start, sit, cut, and now let's move on to the second segment of the first ever NFL game show, which is one gotta go. So I will give you a list of some players, and you gotta tell me which one gotta go.
okay.
Starting off with Adam Thielen, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, Hollywood Brown, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, and Tim Patrick.
I'm getting rid of Tim Patrick.
I think that was an easy one.
Yeah, I think I'm getting rid of Tim Patrick. Before that, if you take Tim Patrick off, Thielen, probably.
Thielen.
That's close.
You saw the
Name them all again.
Niners.
Okay, hold on. So you got Thielen. I'm not taking Thielen over. Okay, let's go through them again. Thielen.
Allen. Keenan Allen.
I'm not taking him over Allen. Okay.
Tyler Lockett. That one's debatable.
That one's debatable. Okay.
Hollywood Brown, which I would take him over Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, I would take him over Hollywood Brown.
DJ
You're right
Moore.
about that.
DJ Moore.
I'm not taking him over DJ Moore.
DJ Moore's 50-50 for me, and then Deontay Johnson, and then Tim Patrick.
Yeah. So I would go Patrick, then I would go Hollywood Brown, then either Thielen or Lockett. That's a toss-up.
Yeah, I'll probably go Tim Patrick because that's just an obvious one. But then outside of that, after Tim Patrick wasn't on the list. I don't know who I would take because all these guys are good. But if I had to go with one, I'll probably go to
You
Hollywood
go
Brown.
you go Hollywood.
I would go
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown because I feel like Adam Thielen's just a better receiver than Hollywood Brown overall. And he's been showing it. He's one of the most underrated receivers pretty much every year, and he doesn't get the
Yeah.
recognition that he deserves. So I would take if I had to, one gotta go outside of Tim Patrick. I would say it would be Hollywood Brown for me. Moving on to a little bit of a shorter one. We already mentioned his name before, Lamar Jackson, but one gotta go on this one. Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Jack's favorite quarterback of all time, Jack Hammer's favorite quarterback of all time, Macaroni Jones, and Joe Burrow.
Oh, Mac Jones is out of here. Come on. Yeah, he is out.
I think
Mac
Jack
Jones has
Hammer
got to
would
go.
disagree. Okay, Jack Hammer would disagree. Jack Hammer would go like on a full on debate with
Hey,
me right now if he heard this.
that's fine. Jack's wrong. If he disagrees with that, out of that list, Jack is wrong. 100%. Yeah, Mac's got to go.
Yeah, Mac's gotta go. I'm not Mac Jones. Here's one thing I will say about the Mac Jones thing. Mac Jones, me and my uncle, shout out to my uncle. We had this debate over text one time a couple of days ago. I'm like, we were talking about just Trey Lance. If Trey Lance can make the playoffs and Trey Lance gives us a better chance to, make a Super Bowl run if Jimmy does. That whole narrative that even Grant's been
Yeah.
saying. So we were having that argument. He's like, I get it. Mac Jones has been doing it. Mac Jones is smart and he's accurate. And I'm like, yes, Mac Jones is both of those things. But at the same time, you have to look at his situation. Mac Jones is playing in New England. They have the best defense in football right now. They have a run game. They brought in great weapons for Mac Jones. So he has a great weapons for him to utilize. And he has the best coach arguably in football right now. So it's one of those things where, yes, Mac Jones is smart and accurate. You put him on another team like the Jets or the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Chicago Bears, would he be putting up the same numbers? Would be talking about Mac Jones as, oh, the Niners should have taken Mac Jones over Trey Lance? No. Yes, I get he's smart and accurate. It's not like a team affects your smart and accurate, obviously accuracy, but yes, he is smart and accurate, but if he was on the Bears or another team, like I said, we wouldn't be talking about Mac Jones like we are right now. So I'm taking Mac Jones off this list. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Mac Jones, but Mac Jones, you also have to give partial success. Yes, partial of his success right now is because he is smart and accurate. But also, you got to look at where he landed, which is the New England Patriots, which was arguably the second best, or in some people's minds, the first best landing spot for a rookie quarterback. So I get it, he is smart and accurate, but at the same time, Mac Jones, partially of Mac Jones' success is because he is playing in New England. So one got to go for me is Mac Jones, easily.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, Mac Jones, that's obvious. Moving on to the next one gotta go. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, T. Higgins, and Elijah Moore.
Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, that one I did not see coming. I did not see that one coming.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy. It's got to be Jeudy because I like Jeudy. He's fine, but he just hasn't had the production that some of those other guys have had. I mean, reality is all those guys have put up some big numbers so far, and Judy's been decent, but he hasn't just been crushing it, right? So I gotta go. Judy's got to go.
Here's one thing I will give to Judy's credit is that he just is an impeccable route runner. If you've seen his route running, he's a smooth route runner. If one got to go for me right now, it's Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore has had.
I love Judy's route running.
I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Elijah Moore also, but Elijah Moore is just too early in his career, and he's not like one of those guys where he's having an amazing rookie season like Jamar Chase's or anything like that. So it's not one of those things where Elijah Mitchell with me, I don't think he's not going to be a great wide receiver in football. I think he has potential to be an amazing wide receiver, and he's been doing pretty well, especially in the situation that he's in. But it's just too early for me to say, Elijah Moore is better than Jerry Jeudy, especially with Jerry Jeudy and how smooth and elite his route running is. One got to go for me, and that guy is Elijah Moore.
Oh man, I don't know. Elijah's had some of those games. I love his route running. I love Judy's route running. It is very, very good, but it just hasn't translated. I don't think that well in the NFL yet. Bay says he put me on Mac. He did. He definitely did. In fact, I think I distinctly remember him giving me this play-by-play of a dream he had about us drafting Mac Jones. I told him he was wrong. But he also, just to be fair, you were enthralled with Zach Wilson.
Yes, he
So
was. I remember.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
We already talked about some players, so now let's move on to one. We gotta give some love to the coaches. So out
Okay.
of these coaches, one gotta go. Who do you think's gotta go? Cliff Kingsbury, Matt
Yeah.
LaFleur, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Brandon Staley, Kevin Stefanski, or Mike Vrabel.
God, I mean, on the surface, it seems obvious to say Cliff, but I mean, is it anymore?
Cliff?
Is it anymore?
You mean
Like,
Brandon
I know,
Staley?
no. I know, but Staley's been, I don't know. I like Staley a lot.
Staley
I
was
really like
good.
Staley.
He
It's
was
year
good at the
one. Yeah,
beginning
but
of
it's
the
year.
season.
I know.
And after that, I just completely fell off. And I'm like, wait, what happened to the Chargers?
I know. But I also, it's year one with the team. I mean, a lot of coaches struggle year one. A lot of coaches. So, yeah, I'll go Staley. I still think of the rest. Cliff is seems like the obvious choice. Would be the obvious, but I don't know, man. Actually, Stefanski, I don't know, man. That's tough. I'll lean Staley, but that's a lot of good coaches you just threw at me.
I'm going Staley because obviously, yes, coaches do struggle year one, but Staley was put in a good situation. He has a young quarterback who was balling it out last year. That offensive line was way improved. He had a pretty solid team around him. He had a good team around him. Vrabel, that's just a no. Vrabel, look at the Titans are like 8-3 right now without Derrick Henry. They've lost some games. But one thing that you gotta know about Vrabel's team is that whatever the situation or whatever circumstance might be, the Titans play hard. Every single game, the Titans play hard. And one team, obviously, they are a joke of a team. They've been a joke of a franchise for the last 30 years, which is the Detroit Lions. But I'm still gonna, he's not in the coach of the year conversation because obviously the team's record. But I'm gonna give some props to Dan Campbell because when you look at other coaches like Robert Saleh, some of the new guys, their teams have gotten blown out this year. Their teams just have looked horrible. Where Dan Campbell, no matter some games, yes, maybe like one or two he's got blown out, but other than that, one thing I gotta give Dan Campbell credit for is that his team has always been in it. Pretty much majority of the season, his team has always been in it. They always go down. They always go down and they put up a fight. It's not one of those things where they go down without putting up a fight. They'll always give you a tough fight. They'll give you a run for your money, and they'll play hard pretty much every game. Like Cleveland game, 13-10. They almost beat Baltimore if it wasn't for a 66-yard field goal. So like they always put up a tough fight no matter who's the competition. So I'm gonna give some props to Dan Campbell. But same thing with Mike Vrabel. His team puts up a tough fight against whoever they're playing. So out of all those guys, I'm saying Staley because his team was so on they were zooming. They were on cloud nine for the first couple of games. Beating Las Vegas, who was undefeated at the time. They were straight up dominating, and in the last couple of weeks, they just fell apart. I don't know what's happening in Los Angeles, but they just completely fell apart for the last couple of weeks. Some games that they should have won, Justin Herbert hasn't been playing well. The defense hasn't been looking good. So I don't know what's happening in Los Angeles, but it's not looking good. And I'm saying Staley. Out of all those guys that I mentioned, I'm going.
Okay, so let's say you stopped so you had Cliff Kingsbury, LaFleur, Shanahan, and McVay. Who are you taking? Who are you getting rid of out of that one?
Cliff Kingsbury, Shanahan, and McVay.
And LaFleur.
I'm going Cliff.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying. Everybody thinks it's so easy, but why?
No, I'm not going Cliff. You know what? I'm not going Cliff. I'm going LaFleur. I'm changing my answer. I'm going LaFleur because I get it. LaFleur and the Packers team has been consistent. But you look at that Chiefs game when you have Jordan Love and you don't have Aaron Rodgers making your life easy for you. You look at what happened. So I'm not thinking we don't know what's gonna happen if Aaron Rodgers leaves this year. But what I've seen so far, it's LaFleur because when you don't have Aaron Rodgers making things, making magic and throwing, Hail Marys and doing all that good stuff and, completing passes and just being efficient, being a great quarterback like he's been for the last couple of years. We've seen what LaFleur, and we saw it this year when he had to go down to Kansas City. The defense played well, but your offense just couldn't perform. So I'm gonna go with LaFleur. I feel like Cliff Kingsbury, he's the team is like the best this year. 9-2. The Cardinals are really good this year. So Cliff Kingsbury, every single season that you look at Cliff Kingsbury, his team has gotten better every single year and has a better record every single year with Cliff Kingsbury. But with LaFleur obviously had a better record for the last couple of years, but you take Aaron Rodgers out of the equation, I think it'd be a different story. So I'm taking one got to go for me, then I'm going LaFleur.
I would probably agree with that. That's why I just think a lot of people immediately go to Cliff, and Cliff has been pretty good.
Yeah, Cliff has improved every single year. My first instinct was like Cliff Kingsbury, but at the same time I was like, you know what,
Yeah.
LaFleur. But speaking of coaches, who do you think should be the coach of the year this year?
Oh, Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick.
Thank you.
You got a rookie. You got a rookie quarterback. You have a rookie quarterback. You were a 7-9 team last year. Bill Belichick for sure.
Thank you. Other people have said Cliff. Other people have said LaFleur. And other people, some McVay, whoever it might be. No, it's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick with the rookie quarterback is second in the AFC playoff picture. It's Bill Belichick. What Bill Belichick is doing, he's proving all the people that said it was because of Brady. It was because of Brady. He is proving all those people wrong. Bill Belichick, what he has done this season with a rookie quarterback is impressive. No other coach has done that in the history of football. Take a rookie quarterback and be like second, winning your division, especially when you have the Buffalo Bills in your division, who everybody thought was Super Bowl favorites, Super Bowl contenders, and they're not even first in the division. Now, again, they're tied, and we'll see what happens this Monday. But what Bill Belichick is doing with a rookie quarterback is impressive, and that defense has been best in football this year. So Bill Belichick deserves Coach of the Year over LaFleur, like I said with LaFleur, and then even Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah, I get it. Cliff Kingsbury, his team is 9-2, has the best record, but his team has great pieces. Where with Mac Jones, with that Patriots team, obviously the team also has great pieces and great players, but he's doing it with a rookie quarterback. So Bill Belichick deserves Coach of the Year. There's no question about it. If he doesn't win, that's tough, but I feel like he deserves Coach of the Year, especially what he's doing with a rookie quarterback this year. He deserves Coach of the Year, hands down, especially he gets my vote for Coach of the Year.
How crazy would it be if he wins Coach of the Year and Brady wins MVP? Then I guess you could say they're both pretty damn good, huh?
Yeah, they're pretty damn good, but I mean, like, that was the whole narrative last year was that, oh, it was because of Brady. It was because of Brady. Those 6 rings was because of Brady. And last year, it seemed like that because Brady won the Super Bowl without he won the Super Bowl without Bill Belichick, and that was the whole narrative of last year. It was because of Brady. But then this year, Brady proved all those people wrong. I mean, Belichick proved all those people wrong, and he's been dominating this year. So,
although Cliff definitely deserves to be in consideration right now. I mean, these guys are talking about in the chat 2-1 with Colt McCoy and no Hopkins. That's pretty rough. Yeah. That's pretty rough. And they beat the 49ers. I mean, the Seahawks or whatever, but still, I mean, they beat the 49ers, who right after that went on a massive tear. So, yeah, that's, you got to give him some credit there.
I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna say Cliff deserves Coach of the Year. He's gonna be in that conversation. But I would love to just give a thank you to Cliff Kingsbury, because after that game and after you gave you kicked the Niners' butts, the Niners turned it around. So I appreciate you kicking the Niners' butts with Colt McCoy and running all over them and making James Conner look like Earl Campbell. So I very much appreciate you for that, because the Niners have turned it around since then. So let's just, thank you, Cliff Kingsbury. I would like to say that. Thank you very much. Moving on to some other players. We already talked receivers. We already talked, some quarterbacks. Let's move on to the defensive side. With DBs, one gotta go. Denzel Ward, Tre'Davious White, Marlon Humphrey, J.C. Jackson, and Trevon Diggs.
Oh, Diggs. I'm getting rid of Diggs. He's too boomer bust for me. He's good. I mean, he makes some big plays. And I think with that offense, he's the perfect corner because he is so boomer bust. He can force some turnovers and get that offense the extra possession or two, maybe even score. But he's just too boomer bust for me. Those other guys are consistent. They will hold their receivers down pretty much all game. I got to go with those guys for sure.
Oh, this one's a little bit tough. I'm going Humphrey. Humphrey, he
Okay.
does have good games. He is still people still put him in the top 5 conversation. But let's not forget what happened when he went up against a rookie by the name of Jamar Chase. That was a horrible performance by Marlon Humphrey. Where Trayvon Diggs, obviously Trayvon Diggs is allowing like the most yards right now. He has like 704 plus yards. And probably changed after yesterday's game. But
Most
Trayvon,
yards, most penalties,
yeah, but
yards,
Trayvon
like
Diggs
all
is
of
a
it. Yeah.
turnover machine. He's a turnover machine. He has like 9 interceptions already this season. So like one of those things where yes, he might give up those yards. He might give up those touchdowns. But at the same time, he gets those interceptions. He gets that turnover for you. So there's like it's kind of like one of those things where plus minus. So he gives you that minus, but then he also balances out with that plus with like that turnover, that interception. So I out of all those guys, I'm going Marlon Humphrey, especially what I saw against when he went up against Jamar Chase. That was a horrible performance by him. And Jamar Chase is a rookie. Jamar Chase was dropping balls in preseason stuff like that. And I remember with you and even Radden, those people like, Jamar Chase, I heard he's not looking good. He's dropping balls, Jamar Chase looked like a star against Marlon Humphrey. So out of all those guys,
Jamar Chase has looked like a star against a lot of guys. If he went up
yeah, but I
against
mean
Diggs, I
he
think
looked
you
the
might be
best
pretty
against Marlon
disappointed.
Humphrey. He looked the best against Marlon Humphrey. So
That's
like
fair.
So I'm going out of all those guys, I gotta go with Marlon Humphrey. I mean, Tre'Davious White, I love Tre'Davious White. Denzel Ward, I feel like is also underrated cornerback. J.C. Jackson, aka Mr. INT, and then Trevon Diggs, who just he does have those penalties. He does allow the most yards, but at the same time, Trevon Diggs creates those turnovers, and defense does win championships, and turnovers definitely do help. So all those guys. Parsons putting a lot of pressure on the QB that makes the Cowboys job a lot easier. Parsons should win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Period.
Oh, yeah,
Period.
absolutely. Yes,
There's
of
no
course.
question
Yes.
about it.
Yes,
Parsons
of
should
course.
definitely win Rookie of Thing of the Year. But moving on to the next cut. My bad. One gotta go. Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott, and Aaron Jones. We're not putting Derrick Henry in here. We're not putting Dalvin Cook in here, so it might be a little bit harder.
Zeke. He's the low hanging fruit for me. I just think Zeke's shot. He's just not the player that he was. Zeke was really, really good. He had those few years, but Zeke just isn't the same player for me. I think he looks a little bit slow. They've got a really good O line there, and he's still had his ups and downs. Yeah, I'm getting rid of Zeke.
Yeah, but all those guys, I'm going Zeke. Zeke is not the same. And like I said about Tony Pollard, that run game has still been able to do stuff without Zeke as the running back, lining up as the running back. So out of all those guys, I'm taking Zeke. Zeke for me has got to go. Zeke had those great years. Especially, I remember one time it was decided the Niners and the Cowboys were playing that great rivalry at Levi Stadium. I remember like Blaine Gabbert or Kaepernick was our quarterback, and Zeke just ran all over us, like straight up all over us. And I'm like, oh Zeke, this dude's a beast.
Yeah.
But as of right now, he just hasn't been as good. So, and he's just not the same player as he once used to be, as we've seen like those years in the last couple of years, especially his rookie season. He's not the same player. So, if I had to go with one guy, I'm going with Zeke.
Yeah, I think that's the right pick.
And Tony Ballard's going to take his job, maybe. I mean, he's been taking the most out of his opportunities. He's been utilizing what he can do with the carries that he's gotten. So, out of all those guys, who do you think is the best? Not CMC, obviously CMC with this, but out of all those guys, out of Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, and Jonathan Taylor, who do you think is the best?
Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's really freaking good. He's really good, and he's the youngest of all of them. He's incredible. Jonathan Taylor's so good.
Yeah, I gotta go Jonathan Taylor, especially this year. Jonathan Taylor's balling out, straight up balling out. Not even to mention, like we look at his rushing stats, but he's also a threat in the receiving game. So out of all those guys, obviously Kamara is also, but this season especially, I'm going Jonathan Taylor any day of the week. That's not even a question. We already brought up, we talked about receivers. We already brought about Jamar Chase. We already talked about, Justin Jefferson. But let's bring them back in the conversation with another dude that I've talked about a lot in the offseason. Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and DK Metcalf. I think this is a pretty easy one, mainly because we probably hate the Seahawks, but I want to see what you go with here.
Man, Okay, so it's Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and DK Metcalf. I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb just because it's still early enough and he has a lot of receiving weapons to kind of take things away from him. But man, I just don't like DK, man. I just
don't either.
think
I don't either.
I think he's just got a piss poor attitude, and I can't stand that. That to me is like the biggest. I just can't do it. I can't deal with it. But I mean, he's still a freak athlete, and not to say that CD isn't. CD's really good himself, but I just slight edge probably get rid of CD Lamb.
I'm going DK Metcalf. Now, maybe that might be a little bit biased of an opinion because I do hate the Seahawks, but my biggest issue with DK, out of all those guys, I mean, Jamar Chase looked great this year. CeeDee Lamb has also looked pretty good this year. Even though coming into the season he was considered to be the wide receiver number 3, he's still been pretty good. He's been dominating. Some games he's even had the most reception, the most yards in some of these games he's had, even with Amari Cooper playing. So, and Jefferson, he's still been able to put up the same numbers as he did last year. So he's still been consistent, which consistency matters to me. Though with DK, it's mainly because he plays with the Seahawks. But then also, I feel like DK's attitude is just horrible. DK Metcalf kind of reminds me of, like Terrell Owens or like an Antonio Brown type player, where if his team loses by 30 and if he doesn't get catches, he's going to be more mad that he didn't get catches. Or if he gets like a huge game and he has over like 100 yards receiving, but his team loses, he could care less because he had a 100-yard game. So I feel like DK is one of those guys that has an attitude where, like, I only care about me, and if I do well, I'm fine with it, and I don't really care about my team. Obviously, it's not like he doesn't care, but he cares more about himself and how well he does than about how well his team performs. So that's just some of those things where I feel like out of all those guys, maybe that might be a little bit of a bias of an opinion, and DK to some people is a better athlete and a better wide receiver, but just some of those factors play in for me. And out of all those guys, one guy to go for me, then I would be DK because I hate his attitude. And he also plays for the 49ers rival, which is the Seahawks. So when I take in all those factors, I got to go with DK Metcalf because I just hate his attitude.
DK is probably going to go for 110 and 2 touchdowns this week against us, so we'll see.
You have no
They're going to
faith in
force feed him the ball. They're going to force feed him the ball.
I mean,
I don't have any faith in Norman.
I hope he's not going up against DK, but even in 2019, like, my guy over Debo was AJ Brown. I didn't want DK. I wanted AJ Brown because I feel like AJ Brown.
Oh, I'm the same way.
Jerry Rice with that Jerry Rice pick and all that. I wanted AJ Brown. I was like, okay, I had a mock draft. I like this whiteboard. I was like, Nick Bosa, AJ Brown, and then when they drafted Debo, I was like, who's this dude from South Carolina? Like, who is Debo? So I didn't know at the time, but
AJ Brown was my draft crush as well. Yeah, I definitely wanted AJ Brown
in that draft. Let's talk a little bit more about running backs, but instead of one gotta go, something a little bit different. Rank these running backs from 1 to 6. Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, and this guy we don't talk about enough, but I had him on my fantasy team last second sports fantasy league in the beginning of the season, and I cut him because he just sucked for me the first 4 weeks of the season. He was splitting carries with Ronald Jones, and that was a huge mistake. Leonard Fournette, Aaron Jones, and Alvin Kamara.
Okay, so let me put these down. Fournette, Jones,
Kamara, McCaffrey, Cook, and Mixon.
Okay, I just have to put it up. Okay, so I'm going to work from last to first.
All right.
I'm going to go Fournette last. I'm going to go Mixon 5th. I'm going to go Jones 4th, Kamara 3rd, Cook 2nd, CMC 1st.
So what was your list again?
So I've got Fournette. So you want me to go 1 through 6 or 6 to 1?
6 to 1 works for me.
Okay, so Fournette, Mixon, Jones, Kamara, Cook, CMC.
I mean, okay, so I'm going to go Fournette last because I feel like he's great. He's a great running back, but at the same time, he was splitting carries with Ronald Jones at the beginning of the season, and also he's not as dynamic as a receiver as, he's not like, as good as, as a pass catcher, and then Joe Mixon. And I feel like Joe Mixon is super underrated. So I'm going 6th. I'm going Joe Mixon, 5th. And then it gets a little bit tough. I'm going to put Aaron Jones 4th. I feel like he's another guy that's underrated, but he just hasn't been performing this season. And he had his fair share of injuries this year. But A.J. Dillon, even without Aaron Jones this season, A.J. Dillon's been playing pretty good. And then third, I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara. He's great, but he's not better than Cook, and he's not better than CMC. And then second, which I know people might hate on it, but it's CMC, because CMC, I have the same criticisms about Jimmy Garoppolo. I have the same criticisms about George Kittle. To me, the best ability is availability. And when you can't play and you're not seeing the field and because you're injured, I can't put you, especially out of all these guys, I can't put you as my best running back. Now, when he's healthy, yes, he's easily the best running back. But how healthy has he been the last few seasons? He hasn't been that healthy. And like I said before, the best ability to me is availability. And Niners fans know that all too well, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle. And especially with Jimmy G for the last couple of years, especially in 2018, we're like, this is the year. And then Jimmy G gets hurt. And in 2020, this is the year, we lost the Super Bowl. We're about to make another playoff run. Niners, but then Jimmy G gets hurt again. So the best ability to me is availability, and CMC just hasn't been available for the last 2 seasons. So CMC, sadly, is going to be second. And Dalvin Cook is going to be first, because Dalvin Cook is straight up a beast when he plays. And I'm not saying that CMC isn't.
He's good. No, Cook is good.
More the last 2 years than CMC has, and he's been pretty darn good. So I'm going Dalvin Cook first.
That's fair.
Moving on, we talked about some start, sit, cut. We talked about one's got to go. We talked about some coaches. We also talked some, we ranked running backs 6 through 1. But let's jump into some NFL topics, one or two NFL topics. Starting off with, is it time to bench Ben Roethlisberger?
So this is the whole Eli Manning situation over again, right? Where, there's a slight difference, right? But ultimately, you're talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback that has been a fan favorite. There's nothing there for me to bench him for. Like, I'm not bringing in Mason Rudolph and trying to make a run with me. It's just not going to happen. I see where a lot of people would say yes. I'm going to go with no. I'm letting him ride out the year, go off into the sunset, and then we'll figure out the quarterback situation. Jimmy Garoppolo, and then after that we'll figure it out. But I'm letting Ben Roethlisberger play. There's a cold. It's Tampa, man. I'm a little sick.
Dude, it's hot in Tampa. Okay, over here it was like foggy. It was freezing.
It's foggy today. It's fine. I just looked outside. It's seriously foggy.
In California also. It was like usually it's super sunny in California. Even when it's December, it was sunny for the last couple of days. It's not been like too cold and all that, but today it was just straight up foggy. No, it's not time to bench Ben Roethlisberger, because I don't know what you have in Dwayne Haskins, and Mason Rudolph isn't the answer. Like, if you're Mason Rudolph and you tie to the Detroit Lions, you're not the guy. And with Dwayne Haskins, I don't know what I have. And one thing I know about the Steelers is that they're trying to win this year. Like, they're not like necessarily win the Super Bowl, but they're not going to lose. They're not trying to lose. They're not trying to get a better draft pick. They're trying to win the most games that they can. And Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing record since he's been the Steelers coach. So if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm not trying to lose. I'm trying to still have, at least be 500 and not have a losing record. And I'm trying to keep that streak alive. And if I want to keep that streak alive, I'm starting Ben Roethlisberger. Now, my biggest thing is I don't know what I'm going to get from Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, and I feel like it's just too risky starting them. And with Big Ben, my thing with Big Ben, he's just been inconsistent this year. Where if you look at Sunday Night Football against the Chargers, he put up like 3 touchdowns, and he was dominating. And in some games, you're like, what happened to Big Ben? He's like a tree, and he falls down, and he's not doing anything. And he's like throwing 2 interceptions like we saw against the Bengals. But then sometimes he just has good games. But if I'm Steelers and I'm Mike Tomlin, I know they're not going to start any of the other guys. I would start Ben Roethlisberger. I would, see what obviously next year if you want to make that quarterback decision. But as of right now, I'm starting Ben Roethlisberger because I feel like he gives us the best chance to win out of the guys like Dwayne Haskins that you have on the bench with Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph. And we saw with Mason Rudolph, and we don't know what we're going to get from Dwayne Haskins. But if I'm Mike Tomlin and I'm the Steelers, I'm starting Big Ben and see what he can give me for the rest of his career. But then for the rest of the season, but then next year, I think it's time to make a switch.
Yeah, he's not coming back next year. Like, that's not going to happen at all. So, this is it for him, and they're going to have to figure out something else. Haskins isn't going to be the answer. So, we'll see what happens.
Yep. Well, another topic is about them Cowboys. Okay, how about them Cowboys, whatever. We don't like the Cowboys, but what was your some of your takeaways from the Saints and Cowboys game? And after that Saints game, do you think the Cowboys are once again contenders after that Cowboys game? Because in the beginning of the season, we're like, oh, the Cowboys, yada yada yada, and then they beat the Saints again after they snapped their losing streak of their last three of their. They lost before that Saints game. They lost their last three of their four matchups, or the last games, and then they beat the Saints on Thursday night. So, does your opinion really change about the Cowboys?
No, it doesn't. I mean, they should have beat the Saints. You're a playoff team. The Saints are playing Taysom Hill. They don't have Kamara. I just feel like that's a game that you should win. Dallas is always so weird. There's just something there. It's something, I don't know if it's Jerry Jones I don't know,
What
but there's
can
something
go
that's holding
wrong?
this franchise back.
What can go wrong
Will,
for the
yes,
Cowboys will go
yes.
wrong for the Cowboys.
It's true. It is, but it is true. And there was a point in this season, it was like week 4, week 5, where I'm like, okay, usually when you say the Cowboys are bad or good, they bite you in the butt. And then they played the Patriots, and that game was close, and they edged that game out. And I was like, oh, maybe these guys are for real. Like, that's a game that the old Cowboys would have lost.
Yeah.
But man, since then they just haven't looked good at all. I don't know what to make of the Cowboys. I think that I mean, they're contenders in the sense that they'll be a playoff team. I don't think they're serious Super Bowl contenders. I really don't.
No, my opinion hasn't changed about the Dallas Cowboys. They beat a Saints team that they were supposed to beat. Like you said, they
Yeah.
didn't have Alvin Kamara. They didn't have, Trevor Siemian and both Taysom Hill. Like, Taysom Hill isn't used as the quarterback. He's a Swift Army knife, okay? Like, he's not, in practice, he's using multiple different things. He's not like the quarterback 2 or something. He's not getting mainly as their quarterback. He's used as their Swift Army knife. So, you beat a team that you were supposed to beat. But in the other hand, when you went and played the Chiefs, you guys lost. You guys were getting blown out by the Raiders without Darren Waller on Thanksgiving. You guys lost to the Broncos. And after the Broncos game, I was like, you know what? The team could bounce back. Teams have bad weeks. The Buffalo Bills also lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then you go out and you beat the Falcons. But then when you lose to the Chiefs, you lose to the Raiders. And I'm like, you know what? Something's going wrong. And like my guy Stephen A. Smith says, I'm a huge Stephen A. Smith guy, okay? As much as some of his takes are like, what? Like, what do you say, Stephen A? I'm a fan of Stephen A. Smith, and what can go wrong for the Cowboys will go wrong for the Cowboys. And he always says the Cowboys are an accident waiting to happen. He has it on his shirt. He has, but I mean, no, my opinion hasn't changed about the Cowboys. They are a playoff team because they're leading the division. They're 8-4. But do I think the Cowboys are serious Super Bowl contenders? No, and especially didn't change last week because they beat a team that they were supposed to beat. So like, it's
Exactly.
not one of those things where like, oh, we beat the Saints. Now do our team now do you see our team is real? They're like, no, you beat a team that you were supposed to beat. Great. What do you want? Like, you beat a team that you're supposed to beat. I'm not gonna give you props for doing that. It's like when the Niners beat the Jaguars, when the Niners beat the Lions. It's like you were supposed to beat those teams. It wasn't a game that you should have lost because you're a superior team. So like, it's not a game that you should have lost. My opinion doesn't change about the Cowboys. When I saw those losses against the Chiefs and the Raiders, like, if you beat the Chiefs, if obviously the loss to the Chiefs was tough, but then let's say you beat the Raiders, like a team that I had them beating. You lost to the Raiders, which is also another team that's a good football team. So like, it's just one of those things where I don't buy the Cowboys. My opinion hasn't changed about the Cowboys. In the beginning of the season, yeah, I probably would have called them contenders, but as it has been the last couple of weeks, and obviously they beat the Saints last week, but my opinion hasn't changed because they beat a team that they were supposed to beat.
Yeah, I'm looking at those first round matchups for the 49ers, and I have no issue if they have to go to Texas and play the Cowboys. Like,
Yeah.
no issue whatsoever. I'm down with that matchup. So, yeah, I'm not. Cowboys don't strike fear in me.
Yep, and but the only one thing that would be scary if we played the Cowboys, and if we lost against the Cowboys, we would have to hear it from Trey on the Discord.
Oh, yeah, it would never end for sure. And I've got
Especially me,
obviously
because
text messages with them.
I was talking, before the season, I was like, the Cowboys, actually waiting to happen, all the Stephen A. Smith talking, the Cowboys are the Cowboys, like, the
Yeah.
Niners are a better team than the Cowboys. In the beginning of the season, it wasn't, the Niners were not doing that good, but if we do play the Cowboys, which I want, that's the ideal matchup. 'Cause I do not want to play Tampa in the first round. Tampa is not the
No,
ideal situation.
no, no,
Tampa,
no,
the
no,
biggest thing, the
no.
biggest weakness about Tampa is their cornerbacks. But the biggest weakness about our team is our
Is the
quarterback,
quarterback?
Jimmy
Yeah,
G. And with that week, if you had a good quarterback like Rodgers or Stafford or something like that, like a good quarterback, you could use that to your advantage because those quarterbacks can thread the needle. They can make the right throws. They're accurate passers. All that. With Jimmy G, you don't get any of that. So, and they're great at stopping the run. They have a great defensive line. Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea, and Dominic Sue. So, like, they have a great defensive line. So, their team is pretty much built to beat our team. So, like, unless we had a great quarterback, it's not one of those things where we would be able to use that against our advantage, especially with their weak corners. We're not going to be able to use that against our advantage.
yeah. I would say the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope in that game is the 49ers are really good about utilizing the edges, and a lot of teams that struggled. I mean, pretty much most of these teams are up the gut type running teams, and you can't do that with Vita Vea. I think they could neutralize Vita Vea and really stretch the field horizontally, which could put pressure on them. So I'm not saying that they would have a crazy good game against them, but I think the 49ers of most teams, the way their running style is with Debo, with Mitchell getting out to the edge, Kittle helping to seal things off with Juszczyk, I think they could still be effective running the ball. But I want nothing to do with Tampa. No.
Me neither. Me neither. Moving on to we already talked about some things, but we're gonna bring up some more NFL topics, and then we'll wrap up the first ever NFL game show soon. But moving on to the next topic of the day, the next NFL topic of the day. Out of these three teams, the Washington football team, the Eagles, and the Minnesota Vikings, who do you think has the best chance to sneak into the wild card?
Well, I'm going to go Washington because I believe they still play the Eagles twice. And I think that's a team that they can beat twice. They do play Dallas twice as well. That, I could see that being a possible split or maybe even losing twice to Dallas. But I think that they're going to eliminate the Eagles by beating them twice. And then it comes down to them in Minnesota. I think that they can eke it out. So I'm going to go with Washington football team.
I'm gonna go out. This is a little bit of not the most straight answer, but I'm gonna go with either the Eagles or the Washington football team, because I feel like whoever wins that matchup against each other, whether it might be the Washington football team or the Eagles, especially if a team wins it against both times, whether that might be the Eagles or the Washington football team. If it's a split, that's a different story. But
right, yeah.
If the Washington football team wins it twice or the Eagles win it twice, and they sweep, then I'm gonna take either one of those two teams, especially if the Eagles sweep. Because the Eagles have the Giants, they have the Jets, like they have such an easy schedule. Where the Washington football team, obviously, if they can take advantage of the Eagles and they can win that game, then that would be great, especially if they can sweep. But then they also have a little bit of a tougher schedule, and I don't know how well. I don't know if they can continue to stay consistent and play as well. Where with the Eagles, they had a bad week last week, but the Eagles' offense was flying before that Giants game. Like before that Giants game, I was like, if the Niners played the Eagles now, I would be scared to play the Eagles because the Eagles had such a high-flying offense. They've been running the football more. Jalen Hurts has looked amazing before that Giants game. But I'm going to say either between those two teams. The Vikings are the most talented team. The Vikings, out of all those two teams, have the most talent. They have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, who's underrated in my opinion, but he's not clutch. Out of all those teams, the Vikings, the biggest issue with the Vikings is that they just have a tough schedule. So they got to play the Rams.
The Vikings, they probably have to play Green Bay as well, I'd imagine. So you've got the Rams, you've got Green Bay. Those are probably two losses. I know they beat Green Bay already, but you're not going to beat them twice in a season.
No.
Not unless it's the last week of the season and Green Bay's resting everybody. So the Vikings do have the most talent, but they're very, very banged up. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost to the Lions this week, to be real with you. There's a lot of injuries on that team, a ton of injuries. So we'll see what happens with them.
They're not listening to the Lions. Okay, the Lions just straight up suck. They've been trash for the last 30 years. The last time they won a playoff game was 30 years ago. What have the Lions done for the last 30 years?
All it takes is one game, and you just said it. They fight every game, and with those injuries, I'm just saying, I'm not picking them to beat the Vikings, but I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Vikings.
Yeah, well, that basically wraps up the first ever NFL game. So we got a little bit of start, sit, cut. We got one gotta go. We talked about some coaches. We got some NFL topics, and also I appreciate you for joining me, Jesse. You know, you're a great YouTuber also. If you haven't checked out Jesse's channel, go do so. The link is in the description. It's Last Second Sports. I have a fun time watching their channel. They have a whole squad of Rad, Trey, who we talked about in this channel, and Jeffy B. And he does go check out their channel. Go follow Jesse on Twitter if you haven't already. And go check out their Patreon. Do you want to tell us something about your Patreon?
Yeah, so the Patreon is just basically extra content, extra 49er content. You know, I've got two options there, a $5 option and a $12 option, just a month. So, I mean, you're talking about a cup of coffee. The $12 option gets you into the Discord server. Amin's in there as well, so it gets you into the Discord server. And then I'll do once a month talks in there with everybody in the Discord. And then the $5 option gets you the extra content and so forth and so on. So yeah, there's a couple cool things that we're doing over there. Definitely tap in over there if you want some extra 49er content. Like I said, a cup of coffee is all it costs, so not a big deal. I would love it if you came over and joined it.
Yep, well, go do that if you haven't already. Yeah, subscribe to Jesse's channel, go follow him on Twitter, and go check out his Patreon. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go do so. I'm trying to pump out the most content I can. Just been a little bit busy with school, and finals are coming up, especially for the end of the trimester, because we have winter break. But it's been busy for the last couple of weeks, so I've been trying to pump out the most content that I can. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please go do so. I appreciate everybody in the chat. The chat was pumping today. The chat was on fire today. I appreciate the chat. Everybody. I appreciate everybody's support, especially on this stream. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go do so. Hit the video with a like. The first ever NFL game show will be back soon. I appreciate you for joining me, Jesse. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.